Hello everybody, I'm Charlie Atkinson and today I'm in Stallingborough to see one of the fastest growing companies in the UK and one that is transforming the industry of electric vehicle charging and sustainable living. I'll be speaking to one of the guys behind MyEnergi to find out a bit more about their range of EV charging and renewable energy products, as well as what's next for the company. Now, before we go inside, be sure to drop us a like on this video and also check out all the other videos on our channel. Now, let's go. So Tom, welcome to the podcast. We had you on not too long ago when you were working at Chargemaster at that time. So you're here now in Grimsby at MyEnergi. So what was it about MyEnergi that attracted you to this new role, to the new company? And yeah, how's it been going so far?
Well, I guess thanks very much for having me firstly, Charlie. I mean, I think two things really attracted me. First, it's the opportunity to work in a broader product set. So obviously, Zappi, which is our famous product, our EV charger at MyEnergi, is an iconic charger, so much so that people think I work for Zappi sometimes. It's like working for 3 Series rather than BMW, but MyEnergi is a fantastic business that isn't just an EV charging provider. So yes, we have our hero EV charger in Zappi, but it wasn't our first product. Our first product was the eddi, the energy diverter, hence the name eddi. Zappi obviously gets its name from zapping around with EV charging, and we've got our Libby now home battery, so lithium batteries Libby. So we've got these amazing product range now where we can really start to kind of like connect the home energy ecosystem. And that for me is a massive draw, being able to step outside just EV charging and think more broadly about how are we going to decarbonise the rest of our lives. You decarbonise your driveway, great, but actually the biggest single emitter for any one home in the UK, on average is dangerous, I appreciate, but on average the biggest single emitter is actually not your car in the driveway, it's probably your gas boiler. But the problem is the gas flue, the gas boiler flue is at the side of your house, you never look at it, but you look at the car all the time, and when you're in traffic you see exhaust fumes, so that sort of gas emission from your boiler, etc., and heating your home in hot water, something that people don't think about and don't look at, but actually it's massive, it's a big emitter. So trying to get rid of that and decarbonise that side of the home is something really interesting to me. And secondly, the brand. I mean, MyEnergi is a brand that I'd admired for years, really admired what Jordan had done with building the brand and maintaining it into this very honest, transparent and very credible business and brand. And I always say to people, there's no better business than one that's been formed by, you've got a genius engineer in Lee Sutton, our CEO, and a genius marketeer in Jordan Brompton, who's our CMO. So those two as co-founders, just unbeatable combination. And in my time as a person in communications and PR and trying to help people tell their story, I've seen so many businesses that have a fantastic engineering side that have no ability to communicate it. And it's so sad because they've got a great product but they just can't really tell you what it does. And on the other side, you get sort of vaporware. You get companies that are amazing at marketing and building up a story, and you scratch the surface and you go, there isn't really a good product here at all. You've just built it up into this marketing vision, whereas we've really got that genuine, credible mix of a really great product, really great strong engineering skills behind it, and the ability to help consumers understand it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've followed MyEnergi for a couple of years now, and it's been really has been a meteoric rise for the company, and I appreciate you haven't been here for the entirety of that journey, but over the last 12 months, say, if we just take that little time period, what have been some of the most significant milestones for the company that you've witnessed firsthand?
I mean, you're right. I mean, MyEnergi's rise has been meteoric. I mean, we've seen sort of annual growth in the business of not far off 200% a year as an average growth rate, which is just unheard of. It is one of those great British success stories. One of the things we were recognised last year as being was the 9th fastest growing private company in the UK, which is a huge achievement. Every sort of startup business, scale up business wants to be on that Sunday Times 100 list, and we're not just on it, we're in the top 10. We've now shipped over 450,000 products. We've hit that kind of cumulative milestone. We've launched a new product in our ecosystem. So launching that home battery is massive because it really helps people connect their home energy together and actually make the most of it. You and I talked before about this idea of self-consumption and making the most of the generation you get. And actually that ability to really harness what you're producing in the home is critical. So, most people who get solar panels, if they don't sort of bolt on something like an eddi solar diverter, they're going to be exporting the majority of their energy. Because if you think about it, during the day when you're getting most peak solar power, you're probably not going to be there if you're the average UK person going to work, let's say. And it's a bit like making a meal and only eating 40% of it and throwing 60% away. It's just a total waste. So if you generate 10 kilowatts of energy and you have to export 6 kilowatts back to the grid, what a waste. How can we make people, capture more of that energy and use it themselves? So being able to harness that in the battery is absolutely massive for us. And I think just the growth, obviously people can't see it at the moment, but we've got our new factory that's just gone up next door. So we have our manufacturing site over in Grimsby town at the moment. It's about 40,000 square foot. We're moving into one that's co-located here with our head office. It's about 65,000 square foot. And that will be huge for us, not just in terms of the capacity that offers to the business to grow, but also bringing our team together in one site. So bringing our our production team and our head office team together in one site is hugely powerful in terms of just the dynamic that creates over having remote locations. So really, really excited to have that open later this year. So hopefully about.
Yeah, and just on the topic of manufacturing, and like you said, you mentioned earlier about the bigger picture. You're not just an EV charging company, which people who know the Zappi might think MyEnergi are. It's about that bigger picture and that sort of ecosystem of products. Could you just give us a bit of an overview of all the different products that MyEnergi does offer and how they can sort of harness the energy within a home, like you mentioned?
Sure, so our first product, as I mentioned, was the eddi, the energy diverter, so solar energy diverter. And what that allows you to do is basically divert surplus solar. So if you're generating solar energy and you want to send it somewhere, your house is only consuming a little bit, but you've got excess being generated you can use somewhere else. So that diverts it to a useful place, a resistive load. So something like underfloor heating, typically it's a hot water tank. So that displaces your gas. So in a traditional home, you would have your gas heating your hot water at various times a day. If we can basically heat that hot water with free, marginal cost of free, once you've paid for it obviously, but free solar energy that's readily available, you can displace gas. So you might be able to get that hot tank nice and hot, and once your timer would kick in and heat it with gas, your hot water tank's saying, no, I'm full, I'm fully charged, as they say, I'm full of hot water, I don't need any more heating, thank you very much, and your gas boiler doesn't actually come on to do that. So you can displace lots of gas by doing that. So eddi is a really key product for us and was the sort of cornerstone of the business as it was founded. Zappi was then the next logical step, our EV charger, to say, well, what else can we send this solar to? Electric cars have nice big batteries to shove a load of electricity in, so that was a logical next step. And effectively then you've got the remainder really of, if you've still got energy being generated that you're not able to capture after that, well, you can add on a home battery as well, because obviously the great thing about that is it's permanently connected. So if you do drive to work in your electric car, for example, you're not going to benefit from that home solar happening in the middle of the day, but if you've got a grid connected battery that's always there, always connected to your home, you can obviously dump that excess solar in the battery when you're, say, at work, and you come home and you can either use to charge your electric car or run your home, for example, in the evening. And it might be fully discharged or nearly fully discharged by the time you go to bed, but obviously it can fully charge overnight on off-peak electricity, or you can wake up and then go to work and it will charge again during the day. So that sort of virtuous cycle almost of charging when there's lots of solar around and using it at times when you are avoiding peak usage is really key. So the batteries are key products. Those three kind of key products for us, eddi, zappi and Livy. We've also got our harvi, which is our harvester, so energy harvester. It harvests energy off a cable, basically it's a wireless current transformer, so that helps us monitor energy as well. So our business has IP around that current sensing technology, so we're able to have do it in a much cleverer way than a lot of other companies are in terms of seeing where your power is in your home, where the energy is being generated and where we can send it much more sensibly than other people can. You've got products out there that do things like solar matching, so they do things like, well, if there's solar energy being generated and you want a 7 kilowatt charge, we'll just match whatever needs to be added to make 7 kilowatts. But what we can do is actually charge exclusively off solar. So we can make sure, for example, if you set it in the eco sort of plus mode, you can just charge exclusively if you want to off that self-generation. So you can sort of say, well, my car's trickle charging kind of every day I've plugged in, and I therefore know it's being charged from solar. I'm not using any grid electricity to go into that car. So it's a really smart way of people controlling where their energy goes basically and how they use it. That's the key for us.
Okay, Tom, that's perfect. Now, if you don't mind, can we go have a quick look at all the different products?
Yeah, let's show you all around the corner. No problem.
Perfect, thank you.
So we're in obviously our sort of training and product suite here. So this is basically where we bring installers in who install our products and get them trained up. I'm familiar with the products, hence why we've got 5 of the same product here. We've got our zappis here, so we've got sort of 3-phase, single-phase zappis for them to have a look at. We've also got our tethered charger here, tethered zappi, so we've offered people the socketed one, the universal one here. As you can see, we've also got a tethered charger here, so often copied but never bettered. A nice easy cable holster in there, so a nice attractive design. This is obviously the 2nd generation zappi. First one looked quite similar, just wasn't quite as as neat in terms of the cable holstering, etc. And then we've got our eddis, our solar diverters here. So typically these are your EV charger you'd see outside your home or in your garage, something you interact with maybe once a week, twice a week. So it needs to be something people are really familiar with, friendly design, nice, attractive design that people are proud to have outside their home. Typically, your eddi product, your solar diverter, is probably going to live in a cupboard somewhere you don't see it.
Behind all your towels.
Yeah, behind my towels I'm wearing cupboard. Obviously, consumers can control it from here with the buttons. The same on the Zappi. You've got all your controls here and menus, but obviously you've got the app as well. So you've got the MyEnergi app. You can go into and alter the settings there. You can change the modes. You can change how it's charging your car. You can change how your eddi is boosting energy as well. So you can boost different loads. You could say actually heat my underfloor heating or heat my hot water tank. And at the end here, excitingly, we've got our harvi energy harvesters here. So these are our basically wireless current transformers. So if you can't wire up your grid supply to check where your current is and wire it back, you can use a wireless one there. It sends the data to the units, the devices. And then we've got our Libby battery systems here. So you've got the controller here. This is a MyEnergi controller for the battery. So that's proprietary controller to us. And then you've got your inverter and the battery modules below. So you've got 2 battery modules here. So each of those is 5.1 kilowatt hours. So both of these are sort of 10.2 kilowatt hour setups.
And have as many batteries as
so you can go up to, we go up to sort of 20 as standard. So basically you can have one, you can have a 5 kilowatt hour system, which would just be this top bit here with the inverter on, or you could have a 20 kilowatt hour setup, which would effectively look a bit like this, but you wouldn't need your second inverter. So you could just do it as a single inverter on the top there altogether, and with the MyEnergi controller as well. So the really good thing about the Libby battery is that it seamlessly connects with the rest of your MyEnergi products. And at the moment, we're not seeing there's no common standards for communicating between energy sort of eco-smart appliances in the home. So if you buy a third-party battery and an EV charger, there's no guarantee they'll talk to each other nicely.
Right.
And what that means in practice for a consumer, for example, is that you might have a nice fully charged battery at home with, let's say, nice clean solar energy that you want to use for the home. You might get home and plug your car in wanting it to charge, say, on solar. When it's available, you don't want to charge it right now, but your battery might see a car connected and immediately start discharging when you don't want it to, and you've got to intervene to stop that happening. So what we can do with this is basically, through the MyEnergi app, you can control the priorities. So you can basically, for example, say, I specifically want my Libby battery to discharge into my car through my Zappi, thank you very much. Or you can say, I specifically don't want to do that, and I want to hold charge, and I want the Zappi to charge, for example, using cheap grid energy. I want to leave that nice clean solar energy in there for tomorrow, whatever. So you can do that much more easily with our energy ecosystem. And I think that's something our customers really love, is that ability to basically change your priorities in your app, change basically where you want your energy to go. And that's what it's all about. It's about being able to control your energy. It's the point is basically, this is what you're generating, it's what you're paying for. You should decide.
MyEnergi.
Yeah. You should decide where it goes, basically, where it goes when. Whereas a lot of other devices out there are kind of built kind of almost with the company's own thoughts in mind about how you might want to use your energy, and there's no way to kind of override it simply and easily. You kind of have to go into the settings and say, don't do this or do that, and then if you want to override, you have to go back into the menu and change it again. And our view is we just have to make it easy for consumers to do this. We have to make it really simple and easy. As I say, with our smartphone app, you can just easily deprioritize or reprioritize where you want the energy to flow and go, and basically use it in the way that's convenient to you as a consumer.
And you mentioned that sort of buzzword, that keyword in the industry at the moment of grid. And obviously everything you've mentioned and touched on there, the sort of key ingredient of all of that is solar. So how important is the role of solar in the sort of overall growth of not just the electric vehicle industry, but in the sort of sustainable living industry as well? Because from my personal point of view, it feels like it's only now that people are starting to understand the vital role that solar can play and should be playing already.
Yeah, I think that really the growth of renewables generally, right? So the Zappi and the eddi products, for example, our product range can work with different forms of microgeneration, as we call it. So microgeneration is your own self-generation. So solar, it's typically solar. We can also power off wind. We can also power off hydro or wind. We do have customers that have that. Obviously, fewer customers have their own hydroelectricity than have their own solar. Solar's going, forgive the bad pun, but solar's going through the roof at the moment in the UK. So we've seen domestic solar installations triple last year versus 2021, and probably the same will happen this year. So it's really, really accelerating fast. Obviously part of that is about costs coming down. More and more consumers are able to actually afford it. There's quite innovative financing models coming out now, so we're seeing people being able to install solar at almost no upfront cost, because basically the finance they're paying is being offset by their energy savings, so they're able to kind of almost square it off that way. So it's a really exciting way for people to get into this technology. We're still going to work on democratising it though and making it more accessible. So solar is really key, as is wind. We're, as MyEnergi, we are big supporters of renewable generation generally, not just on homes, but also elsewhere in the economy. So, there is no form of energy that's cheaper to deploy than onshore wind. It's crazy to us that there's been blockers on that. When people talk about eyesores, there's some pretty ugly power stations around here in the north, the Humber region. Wind turbines, in contrast, are quite beautiful, graceful machines.
Just about pass, yeah.
They don't. I'm not really ever sure what people think they're an eyesore for, but onshore wind, offshore wind, of course, and also solar. Both large-scale generation. Warehouse solar. You drive down motorways in the UK, you see all these new warehouses being built. If they all have solar on, that's a huge benefit as well, obviously in their own generation, but also for the greater grid. But the key thing about the energy system, I suppose, and renewables is that the kind of ecosystem is quite harmonic, right? Between you've got a grid that basically needs to decarbonise, and frankly has done a great job of decarbonising. So the energy system in the UK has decarbonised way faster than any other sector, way faster than transport, way faster than industry. But what you need with renewables, obviously, is the ability to kind of back them up when they're quite peaky, because if the sun isn't shining and the wind's not blowing, you need to be able to provide power. So things like batteries, energy storage at scale is key to that, because you can obviously step in and fill the gaps when solar or wind aren't being able to perform, for example. And the same is true at home. So for us, it's all, these systems have to work in harmony. The good thing about energy storage, again, is that the cost of energy storage are coming home, both for home and at scale. And again, one of the drivers is the electric vehicle industry, because the more and more EVs that are produced, the greater the demand is for batteries generally, battery packs, and therefore that's creating economies of scale in that supply chain. Therefore, we're seeing the cost of batteries come down. We're now at roughly kind of 100 to 150 $150 per kilowatt hour, roughly costs per in battery pack. And as far, about 10 years ago, we were talking about $1,000 a kilowatt hour. So the cost of batteries have really come down very, very quickly. They're not going to keep going. We're not going to see like a $5 a kilowatt hour battery pack, but they are coming down to a much more reasonable level. And I think for that reason, really the system's going to work very well together.
Yeah, I was just thinking as well, because obviously when you mentioned that, obviously we've just EV Powered has just launched a sister title of Electric Home, which looks at sustainable living and renewable energy products as well. And so when you gave us that overview of all the different products that you offer, if you was to sort of paint the picture of the perfect case study, obviously we mentioned before we press record on this, but you'll never get to that sort of 100% mark, but that's what you're constantly chasing. In the sort of ideal world with all the different MyEnergi products installed in the home, what does that perfect picture look like, and how do you talk about the MyEnergi sort of ecosystem? How does that look in the real world?
Yeah, as you say, we are sort of constantly chasing that kind of holy grail for customers of 100% self-consumption, and what we mean by that is using 100% of what you generate. So in that meal analogy, it's you cook yourself a meal and you eat all of it. You don't shove any of it in food waste. So in order to get there, you obviously have to sort of be smart about the way you use energy and have technology that can help you. So I guess if you're someone that, let's say, doesn't work at home, and you're someone that goes to an office or wherever to work, you're not home during the day. Typically you would see solar energy being generated during the day. Obviously peak solar is sort of a midday-ish type period in the UK, not when most people are around. If you've got that ability to generate that solar during the day and actually use it, obviously both things like heating a hot water tank, so you don't have to do it later with gas, but also filling up, say, a home battery during the day. You've then got a load of energy stored. You've got a nice hot water tank. You've got a nice sort of warm home in winter or whatever. Or conversely, you could use it for cooling potentially through diverting the energy to a cooling system. And then you've also got a battery full of nice clean energy to use during the evening when you come home. And obviously we know that's when peak energy use happens in the UK. So average home uses about sort of 8 to 10 kilowatt hours per day. And therefore, if you're using that out of, say, a 10 kilowatt hour storage battery in your home for the evening peak, you can sort of deplete that quite heavily and then charge it during the next day, again, quite cleanly and cheaply, say, during the summer months. Even in winter, you're still getting, a decent number of kilowatt hours. I think I got about 6 or 7 kilowatt hours the other day, sort of 2 days ago in the middle of, quite cold winter months. That's still enough to run most of a home for most of a day, sort of thing. So even in winter, that's what we're generating in the UK. So that's sort of the dream pattern is kind of that solar being generated during the day, being stored, being used, not losing much of it during the day, and obviously not having to rely on the grid electricity or gas in the evening, basically for heating or kind of other home use, basically, and using it in that way. That's sort of the dream scenario. If you're home during the day, it's sort of even better because obviously you can do things like plug your EV in and you can have that. And actually, we've probably seen, in our view, through working from home increasing, we've probably seen the payback for some of that solar installation people have been doing coming down, because suddenly they're able to charge their EV during the day, for example, nice big battery, and actually that's probably lowering their payback period for that solar they had installed. So there's good news if you're working from home as well, and if you're not working from home, you can obviously have a storage battery to capture that instead or as well. But that's sort of the way I guess it would work in an ideal scenario. Now, what we're not saying as MyEnergi is go completely off grid. We don't want to see people disconnect completely from the electricity system, because actually homes and domestic consumption and reducing consumption are great ways to balance the grid. And what I mean by that is what's typically called demand-side response, so grid flexibility. So what we've seen in the press recently about people going around and switching the lights off to try and save some energy at certain peak periods in the evening and get paid for that.
Doing their washing at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sad, geeky, but my dishwasher's got a delay function on it, and I just delay it because I know I've got cheap electricity at certain times. So when I go to bed, I just delay it by 3 hours because I know it will kick in when I have cheap energy. Now, I don't even think about doing that now, it's just built in. But that's sort of the tiny little things you can do that don't cause you any inconvenience as a consumer, because I still wake up and the stuff in the dishwasher is clean as it always was before. And what our view is that this flexibility that we talk about, it shouldn't inconvenience consumers. We don't want people living in the dark as MyEnergi. We don't want people to have to sit there shivering cold and going, oh, at least I'm saving 65p, and I'm helping the grid. That's not the way we're going to get grid flexibility done at scale in the UK, because in the same way as electric vehicles, people with early Nissan Leafs that did 60-70 miles of range were happy to sort of jump and hop between motorway services and charge and do 5 charges on the way to Scotland or whatever they need to do. That's not the mass market's kind of appetite. We need to make sure this stuff works for a mass market consumer, and they're not going to be happy frantically going around at 5:29 p.m. and switching everything off so that at 5:30 they get paid for not using much energy. So we need to make it convenient. We need to do a lot of automation around that. So homes are going to be key in terms of providing that demand-side response, and we've already seen through the recent sort of grid trials that our zappi products that we've entered into that service have provided way more sort of flexibility than other forms of demand-side response. So basically turning off our chargers or pausing our chargers for an hour has created far more capacity in the grid than people going around and frantically turning off all their other appliances. So EVs are going to be a big part of basically helping the energy system, not hindering it. And we're big believers in that actually, there's lots of scare stories about what EVs will or won't do to the grid, but actually, if they charge off peak, it shouldn't be a problem. And even if they're charging on peak, there's ways of pausing that or stopping that being a problem for the grid. So we're pretty confident that that's the way that the energy trilemma will be solved in terms of being able to consume as much energy as we need to, but also not do it at the expense of grid flexibility and stability.
That's all for this video. If you liked it, then please do drop us a like and be sure to subscribe as well. For more videos like this, you can head over to our channel, and for daily news coverage, features and much more, you can also head over to evpowered.co.uk. Thanks once again for watching, and we'll see you on the very next video.